Good morning, everybody. Sam Lawson here. Good morning to you. Hope all is well. Just wanted to bring to your focus this morning a subject that's been on my mind for several days now with the passing or the lynching of Brother George Floyd in Minnesota, Minneapolis. The question is, can one man's life sacrifice change the entire world? That's the question. I don't know if you watch the world news or on the internet just to see the impact that this horrible act has affected everybody in the world, every country. Germany, Africa, Iran, Paris, Italy. They're protesting. And they're saying that, marching with the signs, Black Lives Matter. One man, one man. Now, of course, George is not the first black person to die at the hands of evil, wicked individuals. Let me just say up front that I'm not a prejudiced person. Never was. Born in South Carolina, the son of a pastor, minister. We were never taught to hate people. Not mad at white brothers and sisters. Got no hate for them, not at all. But what concerns me is the way people look at this horrendous act. And some people, not everybody, of course, the ones that are marching in the street, can see something wrong with it. Obviously, something is wrong with it. And we know there are some bad policemen. There's some bad folk in everything. Bad teachers in schools. There's some ministers preaching the gospel every Sunday morning that are just bad. So there's bad and there's good in everything. So I'm not here trying to judge the entire police department, but the history in the United States of America, where slaves are concerned, I know because I studied Afro-American history in college, and I was part or in school at the time where there were protesting and riots in some college campuses trying to block Afro-American studies to be in colleges. It's terrible. It was New York. Terrible, terrible. Did not want it to happen. So, a matter of fact, my first couple of years in school, I wanted to major in Afro-American studies, history. And I found some things that were really, really horrendous that I had no idea. But it's always been the problem. And it's in the DNA of Americans. It's there. It's hatred toward black folk. Some people, not everybody, some people. I know we probably can't even imagine how bad slaves were treated on plantations today. And I know the younger generation, white folk, black folk, can't even imagine. But history tells us of some of the tremendous acts that took place where slaves were not considered as people. They were considered as property of the slave owners. And being property, the laws were written on the books in the slave states that a slave owner had the right to do what he wanted to do with his property. So, killing was allowed at will if an owner felt that his slave did something wrong. He had the right to punish him. So, whooping, beating was done constantly. That was like an everyday thing. Raping of the women were not considered as rape. If a slave owner saw a female slave that he wanted to have his way with, he would do it because she was his property. He could do what he wanted to do. And it was just done. The babies that were born to, because of sexual acts that was performed, it was up to the slave owners to keep that child alive or kill it. That's a fact. Horrible fact, but it's a fact. And I'm not here to promote any books or anything like that, but it's recorded that in some of the cemeteries around plantations, there were graves that were discovered where infant babies were discovered, and they were mutilated, skulls crushed, bones crushed, and just buried in graves. And it is said, or history says, and it's factual as far as I can tell, that these beatings and the killings were done by some of the women that were the wives or the wives of the men. And that was a normal thing. Nobody was punished. Now, as horrific as this may sound, on Sundays after church service, one of the entertainment things that happened after church was common practice. There would be a lynching So church would dismiss, and white folk would gather around the lynching tree in that town, and they would stand around and have their children. They would be dressed in Sunday best, and they would watch lynching or lynchings of women, men, boys, and girls hanging and being lynched on a tree. And of course, they would laugh, and they would consider that as entertainment to see this person or those individuals hanging from trees, kicking and dying. And when it was over, they would let them hang there for that night, and sometime during the following week, they would take it down, because hanging from a tree to them was a spectacle thing, and they had no conscience about it being wrong. And as a matter of fact, there are laws on some of the southern states written that no white person can be punished for killing a slave. And believe it or not, those laws are still on the books. They have not been erased. They are still there. So, now again, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about all white folk, but it's just a fact, and it's a fact that we need to know and understand. It's in the DNA of some people that are in the South. Killing of a black person is no big thing, because they still consider black folk to be subhuman. It's in their DNA. It's what they talked about at the tables. It could be what people are still talking about today. I'm not sure, because I'm not privy to those conversations. But I'm saying that that's in their DNA, and it's what they believe. That black folk are not human beings. Thus, most black folks in their eyes are treated as animals, and that they can do whatever they want to do and not be punished for it. So, and a lot of these people are on the police force. They think that having a badge and a gun is for them to keep black folk in control, or keep them under control. So, any city in America, any city, you'll find a heavy presence of policemen in black communities. You hear sirens all night long, up and down the street, in black communities. They want to keep slaves on their perceived police department, police, those cops, on the plantation. Keep them there. If there's a traffic violation in a black community, one cop, one policeman may stop you, but in a few minutes, there are 4, 5 cars. Policeman out of the car, standing, watching one policeman talk to the driver, one policeman in the front of the car with his hands, or his hand on the gun, one on the other side with his hand on the gun, one in the rear of the car with his hand on the gun, waiting, watching for any kind of sudden move. It doesn't matter if the woman is in the car, the children are in the car, it doesn't matter. They are ready to kill this person if they make one move. They're considered as, to them, as subhuman. You don't find that in white neighborhoods. There's barely a traffic stop. And if it is, the approach to the person that ran the stop sign or whatever is approached with a whole different attitude. That's a problem. It's a problem, and it's a problem that's been around forever. So, when these 4 policemen killed George, you got to remember and understand and watch the video and see who is standing around asking them to stop. You're killing him. There were all black folk who these policemen considered as not human beings. So they felt all right doing it. If we do it, we've gotten away with this before. Don't forget, the one cop kneeling on his neck had 18 charges, 18 investigations. He's been on the force for 20 years. He had 18 investigations of him doing things that was against the rules and whatever, the regulations or whatever for the police department. 18, 20 years, 18. Why is he still there? Because at the top it's allowed. This is not something that starts from the bottom and goes up. It's from the top and comes down. So it's been allowed. Now, is it going to change? Probably not. Because if you don't change the head, you can't expect the body to change. It's just okay, it'll blow over. It'll blow over. We've done this before. We've been there before. You heard the names in Georgia. You heard the names. Everywhere in the United States, in New York City, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in every California, same thing. It'll blow over. It'll be all right. You know, they just, acting like, like they act to march and get upset, but it'll be over. But I pray that the death of George Floyd has brought some attention to what's going on, and that things will change and get better. God bless you. Talk with you soon.